Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. Thank you for joining us as always. I am Olakunle Kasumo. Today our focus is on two Nigerian writers. Titi Horsefall is the author of two historical fiction novels, Influence of a King and From an Orphan to a Queen. Our second writer is Onezi Taiwo Dominic, who has what you might call a gift of poetry. He is the author of this book titled The Mirror. Please join us as we start the show by exploring Titi's world of historical fiction novels.
Influence of a King spans the globe during a time of harrowing worldwide events and captures the essence of faith, fate, and the power of choices. Can two individuals with nothing in common, yet everything happening around them, including the choices made on their behalf, establish an uncommon love and fulfill a greater purpose? In From an Orphan to a Queen, Esther, novelist Titi Horsefall laces historical events with fiction, weaving a tender and vivid recreation of a journey of a biblical character called Queen Esther. In this book, our heroine's story comes to life as a tale of hope and personal discovery. A tale of a girl whose hopes and fears were not all that different from young women today. History and fiction seem like poles apart, but some writers like Titi Horsefall specialize in bringing them together to create engaging historical fiction works. In her books, Influence of a King and From an Orphan to a Queen, Esther, history and fiction merge well.
Has varying angles to the story.
At a book reading event at Terra Culture, Titi Horsefall's historical fiction novels are explored.
The story evolves around two primary characters, Chad, a young man born in Britain, of a British mother, and surprise, surprise, a Nigerian father. That surprised me, really. The beautiful Kenyan, a girl, her own mother, and community, on account of crippling traditional and superstitious beliefs in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria where she was born, concluded she belongs to the water spirits. It will seem, therefore, that Mrs. Horsfall in these two books connected well with the downtrodden, the broken, throwing light on their path of victory when all seemed lost.
And the books are read.
The sirens and alarms went off. He was certain the ship had been hit by a torpedo. Mayday, mayday, mayday. A call buzzed over Chad's radio. He pulled the radio off his hip to respond. Mayday, destroyer on alert. What is the situation? Send. This is iceberg. This is the iceberg. I repeat, Mayday, the iceberg. We are under attack. Immediate assistance required. Position is Gulf of Guinea near the prime meridian. This is a merchant ship carrying a 20-man crew and 40 POWs on board. Over.
They passed through countless doors and corridors. Her feet had a sinking feeling as she walked across the thick rocks. Soon they came to a large private sitting chamber. It was magnificent. The walls were pure white. The glass ceiling displayed Persian art in a match of vivid and contrasting colors. The deep red rocks starkly contrasted the white walls. Esther walked briskly behind him, once again confused about the special treatment she was receiving. When a guy pushed open yet another door and gently urged her in, describing the room as her bedchamber, she balked in fear. What's the problem? You don't like the room? Edgar asked her in a surprised tone. Esther took another look at the room. She had never seen anything like this before. It was a white room with a floor of gold-colored marble. A large oak desk bore a huge porcelain vase filled with freshly picked flowers. Above the desk hung a huge gilt mirror. What really kept her tongue-tied was the wall behind the bed. Was it a river or just her imaginations? She blinked, willing herself to focus on reality. The river tank contained so much sea life that it took our breath away. Turning to Edgar, she answered this question. There is no way I can stay here. It is meant for a queen.
Mordecai scowled. Esther understood his frustrations. This was the first time they had met one-on-one since she was admitted into the palace. The perceived distance between them was threatening to him, especially since she was holding back on information. Your presence in the palace is a call to duty, not an opportunity to harbor passions which will blind you, he insisted. Father, you mock me. I'm so displeased. You talk as if you know nothing of me. Hadassah, look at you. I barely recognized you. Even your behavior is so changed as your voice. I would have thought I was talking to another. I thought I was to be called Esther, she said, referring to the name he had mistakenly called her. Her head swam in confusion. She had never argued with him before.
Some guests point out important themes.
Commenting on Titi's placing the story in the Niger Delta and using words from an indigenous language. I too was really fascinated and particularly felt a connection because some of the words you use come from, I identify them as Ogbeya, Aloha, that greeting, and that's, the part of the Niger Delta into which I'm married. So Aloha, Ezibaka, and you have Kanyam here. And I had to ask my husband because his name is Ranyam. So he explained it to me that whereas Aranyam means this, Kanyam means something else. And being a Port Harcourt girl like you, by the way, Titi and I both attended the Federal Government Girls College, Abuloma in Port Harcourt. I really felt at home with the book, so thank you so much and well done.
Veteran broadcaster Sienna Alwell-Brown seemed to have enjoyed the books. She shared her thoughts.
As I kept going on, there were more and more and more of alliterative stuff. And this is something that's so rare. I was saying to myself, when the reviewer starts talking about these things, can he leave this other bit? Fortunately, because he didn't have enough time, because I knew that if he went on to that, he'll beat me to it. So thank God I beat him to it. So Titi, for me, that was, apart from the storyline, the disparity in between all your heroes and heroines, if you know what I mean. That's even in Esther, there was Darius and Esther, a king and a slave. In this one, Abigail and Oliver, some black man, and the daughter of a knight. What keeps bringing these people together? And Chad, of course, and Kanyam too. And it's like, this is it.
And she read from one of them.
When you talk about quietly, he handed her a bag, which she opened in a flurry. Inside were cans of liquid milk, cabin biscuits, groundnuts, sugar, and gari. Those were my days. And it felt so good. It was a scene I understood. It was something I could identify with. I knew how we all right, I didn't end up in a nunnery or a place similar to where Kanyam ended up. But in boarding school, which was more or less the same kind of thing, well, where she ended up, it was like home to me, and I could identify with it. The monkeys, after eating to their satisfaction, hurled ripened fruits at humans walking below, presumably angry over the excess. The rivers teemed with fish near the banks, seeking human attention. Her father set out to harvest plantains while they were still green and swollen. This was necessary because his journey by dugout canoe to the urban areas where he sold his harvest took him weeks. By that time, the plantains would have ripened. It was a long, tedious task, and the villagers wondered why he did it. That's every single word there, every description there I could identify with.
If you've not, you may want to start reading books in the historical fiction genre. They are often very interesting.